This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.
This episode is sponsored by Monkey Stuff. Monkey Stuff makes things for makers. We're inspired every day by the craft and creativity of makers, and design and manufacture tools and accessories to try to make your making life a bit more delightful. Our products are designed in California, by makers and for makers, and manufactured in the USA. Check out our line of pottery accessories and tools at monkeystuff.com. Follow us on Instagram to see what we're up to in our studios, and keep on making great things.
This episode is brought to you by Cornell Studio Supply, located in the Gem City of Dayton, Ohio. Find all your pottery and ceramic sculpture equipment and supplies with the best customer service and world-class workshops. Join us January 16th through the 18th, 2026 for a colored clay and material inclusion workshop with Chris Alvashir and Jillian Park. Visit CornellStudioSupply.com to sign up. Cornell Studio Supply, owned and operated for potters by potters.
Hello, my name is Kathy King, and welcome to the For Flux Sake podcast. I'm coming to you from the Harvard Ceramics program in our fair city, Allston, Massachusetts. I'm here with Rose and Matt Katz of the world-famous Ceramic Materials Workshop, and they are ready to answer your burning questions about clay and glaze. Well, howdy, Matt and Rose.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi. Autumn is coming, or it might be here. I don't know when this episode is coming out.
Or when you're listening, or what hemisphere you're in.
Oh, that's true. Yes, of course. But it is pretty outside today, so I'm so thrilled to be indoors with you two and producer Ben.
Yeah. Well, you know the most interesting thing about autumn, Kathy?
What?
Is that it's my favorite season, but it's also
Mine
the
too.
season when things are starting to die.
Yes.
And so it's beautiful, but the
They
world
go
around us.
dormant, not
Yeah,
die.
sure. Those leaves are dead. They're not coming back. They're mulch. And as we talk about seasons changing in passing, we need to return to Kathy's favorite small town to visit the small village of Materials Corner.
Oh my
Materials
God.
Corner.
Okay, strap in, everybody. Here we go. What
Yeah.
terrible thing are you going to tell us about?
The good news is 98% of our audience are going to be like, whatever. And 2% of our audience are about to lose their freaking minds. So I'm sorry, soda, salt people, and wood-fired people, but the thing we are hearing is that Helmer Kaolin is no more. That if it's not gone yet, it will be gone very soon.
Where did it go?
It went off to the great mine in the sky.
Yeah, it's staying underground.
Very correct, Rose. Very correct. Because it's not, I mean, it's still, the deposit is still there, but from what we've been told now from multiple sources, I've had this verified by a couple of different places, is that they are no longer going to be mining Helmer Kaolin. Do you use Helmer for anything in the studio, Kathy?
We have it, yeah, for a soda slip. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Very pretty.
Mhm.
And that's why most of you don't know anything about Helmer Kaolin, because Helmer is sort of considered the flashing clay. So if you're doing salt and soda and wood fire, there is a good chance that you have got Helmer in that recipe, because it's generally perceived as giving better color and flashing to your slips and to your clay bodies. If you don't do atmospheric firings, those are the 98% of you who are probably like, what do you mean? I don't know what Helmer Kaolin is. So it won't affect most of you. For those of you who do use it, I'm not aware of anything that functions as a substitute. I am also more dubious of the claims that it is that much better at flashing. I have theories about flashing that we can talk about another time. Here, we're here to memorialize Helmer Kaolin.
R.I.P. So, what is in the Helmer Kaolin that's supposedly so sexy to make it flash?
That's the more controversial part of like it's kind of just a dirty kaolin. It's just a sort of dirty material, and people argue that it's the iron or the titanium or the sodium in the clay that really does it. I mean, the really weird thing about Helmer, right, as a material, why it's interesting is it really serves no other purpose in ceramics. Now, again, I don't mean to slander a material that is on its way off this mortal coil, but it is terrible to work with. You cannot put it in a clay body because it just makes it short and just nasty. And it's hard because this whole material has really been pushed forward by this one guy, Michael Wendt, who's really been trying to make Helmer thing a kaolin for decades. Because he does, as far as I know, he did all the mining and all the processing and all that.
Oh my
And so,
gosh. Really?
Yes.
And so he's the one that doesn't want to mine
He's
it
retiring.
anymore?
What I am told
Oh.
is he's done. He's
Well,
at his
this is
retirement
a
point.
potential business opportunity for some hardworking soda fire out there.
Yeah, I can get out there
Uh-huh.
with a bucket truck and a
Shovel.
yeah. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, lots of work, lots of hammer mills, lots noisy, dusty.
Noise,
Let's see what else
dust.
dangerous.
All right, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, he's decided he's going to retire. Actually, the funniest thing that I heard in the closing of Helmer is one of the people who knows some things had told me that actually the biggest business for Helmer Kaolin was not the ceramics industry. And that over the last couple of years, where they were really making any money was, anybody want to guess? Anybody? Rose?
Pharmaceuticals.
Kathy? Producer Ben?
Got nothing.
I say pharmaceuticals.
That's I love your optimism, Rose. That's what I love about you. No, catch it. Come on. They were using it for kitty litter.
Litter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Oh, wait a second. You think Nova and Liddy are using that?
I don't know where they were selling it in particular because most kitty litter is bentonites. I think we might have talked about that on the show before. But yeah, you can make kitty litter out of kaolin. Maybe it's artisanal fancy kitty litter. It's a West Coast material, so maybe they're selling it to Hollywood people that want the
The flashing. They want the flashing on the kitty litter.
Who doesn't? My goodness.
But yeah, that's the thing of like we really don't have a substitute for it. Because it is sort of a one of a kind of thing. So yeah, this one's a bummer. So if you are an atmospheric person and you do rely on it, I would stock up now. Well, you can, because I think its days are numbered. So watch out for that.
Well, that wasn't terrible. I mean, that wasn't globally impactful. So we'll take
As
this
Kathy
as a
brushes
win.
her shoulders off, 22 soda firers are in our audience are weeping.
Oh no.
Tears running down their face.
The perk of doing this podcast, I just ordered some. So
Oh, insider knowledge. Nice.
Yeah, well, it also is going to lead to the Ocean's 11 of a bunch of wood-fired potters from Utah sneaking into Cambridge and doing a heist on Harvard ceramics for Kathy's stash.
Gosh, it's true. It's true. All right, people. Well, let's get to it. Let's see. What should we start with? Let's start with Matt. And Matt wrote in and asked about Orton cones. So bear with me. Matt said, I'm curious about the history of Orton cones and the logic behind their unusual numbering system. What's the difference, the significance rather, of the 0 series, and why the abrupt shift between cone 01 and cone 1? I understand the original chart predates reliable parameters, but why hasn't it been modernized into a more intuitive, evenly spaced 0 to 36 scale?
Oh, man.
That is a OCD question I've ever heard.
It's a good question that we
Yeah,
talk
it
a lot
is.
about in our classes. Because it's like, what the hell is this 04 and 01? And then you go to 1 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah, understanding cone chemistry is actually incredibly important for understanding how and why glazes work. Because, of course, best fact about cones, cones are just glazes. They are
Yeah.
literally glazes with very specific chemistry and very specific changes in their chemistry as you increase temperature. But yeah, like one of my favorite things to do, if you take a cone 4 and you crush it back up into a powder and apply it to a pot, that is a cone 10 glaze.
That is a very expensive glaze.
It is very expensive. But the reason why it's a cone 10 glaze for a cone 4 is because it's softening at cone 4 and it's melted at cone 10. And when you're reading the cones, the bending is the softening of the glass. It's the early stage melting, and there's a 6-cone gap between softening and melting. But that is in fact how cones work. They are just glazes, and like even the high temperature cones, like why they're different colors is just so you can tell them apart when they're raw. Because like they'd all look the same because they don't have any natural color, which is why they all fire white. So yeah, it is a great question, and it all goes back to our friend, my personal hero. Someone recently, not too long before this recording, we got a new kiln, and we were asking social media what to name our kiln, and somebody said the name. The name Seeger.
Oh.
Yeah. And if anybody hasn't heard the name Seeger, that refers to Herman Seeger, who was the original inventor of cones. And Seeger invented cones as we know them today. And in fact, in a lot of the world, they're still called Seeger cones. Here in the US, they're called Orton, because there was another scientist, an American scientist named Orton, who started a company called Orton, which then made Orton cones. But basically the chemistry of what Orton cones today are still what Seeger developed. And he published his original paper in 1886 called Pyrometers and the Measurement of High Temperatures with Standard Cones. And I won't nerd out completely, but the short version is that Seeger invented from cone 1 up. And that was because of the chemistry that he was looking at and the materials he was working with. And so he invented cones, and he started with cone 1 for very basic reasons. And then that was in 1886. That's when he started. Seeger did not live very much longer past that. Unfortunately, he died in 1893. And so although the cone 1 up was the established system, it took other scientists to develop lower temperature cones. And those were specifically done by a guy named Kramer, who in 1892 had published from cone 04 to cone 010. And then another guy named Hecht, who in 1895 did cone 011 through 022. And they were doing the same thing, but they had to reverse engineer the chemistry because Seeger's cones were only 4 ingredients. And when you want to go at lower temperatures, the chemistry has to get more complex. You have to add in other ingredients. And so Kramer and Hecht developed it. As to like why they came up with it, man, don't ask me that. I don't know. When I'm in our online classes, I will always say that they should have gone negative, like they should have used negative numbers, and people are generally comfortable with that concept. Whether people were comfortable with that concept in the 1890s, I don't know, but like would cone -1 and cone -2 and -3 make sense versus the O system? I think it would be more visually distinctive, which would again help people understand it better, but it would be the same thing.
But then it's like I could see people taking off that negative number and mistaking it. Although I think it happens with the 04 commonly anyway.
No, absolutely. All the time.
That's a very good point. Well,
Those men in 1800s.
I know they should have given more nicknames like Sleepy and Dopey or something really easy to
Doc.
remember. Wow, that was interesting. I didn't know so many people were involved in that system.
Oh yeah, it's a big long story. It's a fascinating story, and we talk all about it in our Making Glazes Make Sense online class, and we can get into all the chemistry and all the details. But that's the short version. It was invented one up and then in reverse later.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online source for research and inspiration, featuring photos of thousands of objects made by over 800 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required. To find out more, visit www.rosenfieldcollection.com.
Glazes don't make sense, but that's why Rose and I are here at ceramicmaterialsworkshop.com, helping translate glazes for real ceramicists like you. So join us for our brand new class starting October 1st. It's for everyone from beginners to masters. We clear up all the mysteries of glazes to make them work for you. Join us at ceramicmaterialsworkshop.com for Making Glazes Make Sense.
All right, fabulous. Let us now move on to Julie from Northern California. And I'll stop and say, in a former episode, we started talking about creepy words in ceramics, and we came up with our first one, which is porcelaneous. And I think this question has to do with my favorite creepy word, scumming.
Hey, Kathy, Matt, and Rose. This is Julie, and I'm calling from Northern California. I've been having some major issues with scumming, or also known as efflorescence. I've been working with the same clay body for over 10 years and have never had any issues with scumming. Most of my work is left unglazed on the exterior, and I've always had beautiful, even results. Until now. Basically, my fingerprints and dark sponge marks are showing up dramatically on the exterior, and it happens between the leather hard and bone dry stage, I think. Probably while I'm trimming my cups and bowls and moving them to the shelf. This only becomes apparent once bisqued. For the past 4 months and many bags of clay, I've tried everything to problem solve and assumed it was my fault. But after so much troubleshooting and losing a lot of work to the ugliness of dark streaks and some glaze fit issues, I'm now convinced it is the clay body. I called the manufacturer and they assured me it wasn't the clay and that nothing has changed. They even suggested I just handle the work less, which I already barely touch anyway. But like I said before, I've been doing the same work in the same way, same process for 10 to 12 years, and I can't figure it out. I use cone 10 clay and high fire in a community reduction gas kiln. So what can I do? Or should I just move on from this clay body? Thanks for taking my question. Love the podcast.
See, efflorescence is such a nice word. See, just like
See,
that.
it should be your mic test.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Efflorescence.
That's some
Rose
ASMR.
and I have an old friend who was a ceramicist and a musician. She would always say her mic check when she would perform a concert was syphilis.
Oh no. That ain't cool. Nope.
Efflorescence. I don't know. None of us deal with red clay.
Here we go again. Thank God for producer Ben.
Yeah, we have to turn to our trusty man with a plan, the red clay rambler himself, Ben.
Yes. So scumming, this is an interesting issue at high fire because this is the only time I've ever heard of this happening at high fire. It can happen at low fire when you have a flux, when a clay manufacturer has put a flux into the clay body that is soluble. It's actually traveling through the body. So a lot of times it shows up in bisque, and you can counteract that by adding little bits of barium Matt, tell me which barium it
Carbonate.
is. Barium carbonate to that. And I mean little bits, like 0.5%. Oh, 2%. Okay.
2% is a maximum.
Okay, so a maximum, yeah, and then 0.5 is kind of like the lower threshold before it'll even work. But the question of whether or not that would work at cone 10, like I'm stumped because at that point it's going to be really active if you put 2% barium in your clay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very odd question because usually it does not persist to those high temperatures. By the time you get to vitrification, that should melt away. Those of you who haven't seen it, I mean, scumming at efflorescence, yeah, is a fascinating problem. The one I'll contradict you on, Ben, is that it's actually in the red clays. Is that there's sulfur in the red clays? It's not solubles; it's sulfur in the red clay. And what the barium does is that it ties it up and makes barium sulfate, so it doesn't rise to the surface. But everyone here has seen it. If you have seen a brick wall and there's white film on those bricks, that is scumming. And it happens because bricks are generally made out of red clay, out of terracotta clays. And in fact, a lot of bricks manufacturers, there's nothing added to those clays except they will add in 2% barium carbonate to try to minimize scumming in their red clays.
Oh, she doesn't. Did she say it was red clay?
No, but I'm assuming it is a dark clay. It is
a darker clay.
Actually, the West Coast part is very interesting because there are definitely clays that are mined on the West Coast that will tend to have materials that will do this in them. And you don't see it on white clays. It doesn't really occur because it's generally tied in with the reds. The don't touch it, man. Like that is one of those things. I have been in a couple situations in my life. One of my favorite ones where we were involved with a studio that had a health and safety audit go on. And the person that ran the audit went to the person running the studio after the audit and said, boy, you know what would make health and safety so much better around here is that if you could do all this ceramic stuff without using powders. Can you do that? To which the answer's like, yeah, it's the right answer, but like, that's not how this works. Like,
I wish it was like a soft serve machine, you know, you could just like lower the handle and
little this, little of that. Yeah. Twist it.
Yeah. You're telling a person working with clay to not touch it. Like, where did your brain break today? Like that is terrible advice. Now, I will say they're 100% right. Like, it is the correct advice. It was also terrible advice.
Yeah. And she did pinpoint it to leather hard to dry stage. That's when it does happen.
Rose, do you remember the hand impression from
the red clay? Yeah. It's a mug we had that clearly had somebody's fingerprints on the opposite side of where the handle was, because that's where they held it and put the handle on and then put it down. And it showed up on the bisque, and then they glazed it, and it showed up in the glaze too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it was literally you could see their hand. Yeah, no, the company was trying to get rid of it, but that was a weird one where the company refused to put barium carbonate in their clay, and we're like, all right, that sucks to be you. Like, there's literally nothing to do about it.
Yeah, and it comes and goes. It's not like it's constant all the time. It can come and go.
And and the one thing I will say, Julie, is like, we're talking about putting barium carbonate in there. Don't try to wedge raw barium carbonate into your clay. This is something that the clay company should be dealing with. If this is a consistent problem, they should be doing it. And there's a couple of reasons why you don't want to do it. One, Ben was saying barium carbonate in a high temperature clay is rocket fuel. That could really screw up your body. Two, I know a lot of people like to wedge stuff into their clay. That is a horrible way to mix things in. And homogeneity, evenness in mixing, it makes or breaks your clay body. And so trying to wedge in something like barium carbonate, which would be rocket fuel, into that clay at that state, it's never going to be even. It's never going to be homogeneous, and that's going to be bad. So the clay company needs to be dealing with this. Unfortunately, like Rose said, it comes and goes. and like it's something that they have to be on top of. But for them to pass the buck, like that's some nonsense. Like it's totally their responsibility.
So what I learned is you'll never get scumming on porcelaneous bodies.
Efflorescence.
So dirty.
Rose, I want that like as my cell phone ring.
Okay, I'll keep recording for you.
That we could give that away off of the Patreon.
There we go. Get it on Patreon.
Yes.
Rose saying efflorescence. And Kathy will lay out a porcelaneous as your ringtone. Get those on.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
If you want it, join our Patreon and tell us that you want it. Support for Flux
right.
Sake on Patreon.
We're ready to deliver. Okay, so let's go on to our next question. This question comes from Sandy, who is in your home state, New Hampshire. And Sandy wanted to know, I live in New England. At what temp should I A, store bags of clay and commercial glazes, and B, dry thrown pieces? I'd also like to know what is the lowest temperature clay can be stored at. I only plan to heat the studio while I'm in there, but that could be a penny wise and pound foolish notion. Good point, Sandy. All right. So how low can you go?
Well, if global warming, sticks around, you might not have a problem. You live in New
optimism
Hampshire.
is a beautiful thing.
New Hampshire is practically tropical at this point.
Yeah. You in our winters, last winter was pretty brutal. Lots of snow and lots of freezing temperatures. We didn't go negative last year, did we? I don't think we
maybe
did.
Just overnight.
But yeah, you don't want to store your clay or glazes below freezing. You don't want them to freeze. You got to heat that studio.
It is not the end of the world if it does, but like it's not doing you any favors.
No, it's certainly, you're just adding more work to your process when you're in there. I mean, if you have frozen clay, then A, you have to thaw it out. B, you have to re-wedge it or repug it, because you'll have those ice crystals in there and it kind of separates those clays. And
that's why they split. Usually like frozen clay splits and cracks, and it's literally just the ice particles pushing everything apart.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd find a warmer spot to store those things, Sandy. So you don't maybe have to heat your studio all the time, but, don't let them freeze.
If it does freeze, let's say she doesn't have that as an option, like what's going to happen? The clay box will all split and then they will thaw when spring comes, but it's going to make them completely unusable during the winter. So, that's the number one. If you need clay in the winter, you have to keep it warm. When they do split, you're going to find a couple of things. One, you're going to lose moisture content because what's going to happen is that ice will come to the surface, some of it, and then when it melts, it'll just like evaporate and then stick to the bag. And so you're going to lose some moisture content. Two, you're at least going to have to re-wedge that clay. And better yet is repugging the clay to get it back to a plastic state. And all of it is going to have to be wedged. So, I mean, we've talked before, like wedging is hard. But it is every single pound, every single ton of that clay that you buy, you're gonna be wedging that, and that's a question of whether your back and arms and wrists can take all of that wedging, and whether or not it's better to find a warm place.
But a fascinating part of this question, though, is she's also asking about dry thrown pieces. So does freezing a piece that's thrown, trimmed, got a handle on it, it's just sitting on a shelf waiting to go into the bisque. Would anything bad happen to that? No,
not well. If it is dry,
yeah, it's got to be completely dry.
100% dry. If it is 100% dry, it will not. There's no water there to expand, and it's not the temperatures. Like clay can take a drop in temperature, it can take an increase in temperature. That's not going to change it. The question is what the water inside is going to do. One of the craziest physics things about water is most materials, when they freeze, their molecules rearrange themselves and they take up less space. One of the craziest scientific concepts about water is that when water freezes, it actually expands and it becomes bigger, which is antithetical of almost all other materials. But that expansion is what destroys clay, because now it's taking up more space, but it's literally just pushing all those particles out of the way. So if it's dry, it can take it. But if there's any moisture in that clay at all, it's no good. And clay doesn't really absorb water from the air. We've actually done, back in my lab days, my mentor had an idea about trying to make a primitive form of air conditioning, like essentially would be a swamp cooler, by making like drywall wall boards out of kaolin, and whether or not the wall boards would absorb moisture, which would cool the air, and then release it, which would warm up the air. And so we had done all these tests about leaving kaolins and clays in ambient temperatures and measuring their moisture content. It basically never really changed in any relevant degree.
No, wow.
So yeah, it's not going to pick up moisture from the air in any way that's going to care, but it has to be completely dry.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have garage studios or out, outer houses. There's got to be a good way to do this. So I don't know. Write in, let us know.
I think about those warnings that you'll see at a vet's office that says, if you're cold, they're cold. Bring your pets in at night. If you're cold, your clay is cold. Store it by the fire. Put it by the heater.
Bring your pint of glaze with you.
Stack your 1,000 pounds of clay in your TV room.
Well, listen, this stuff is not cheap. You gotta.
It's not.
It would be worth, dragging it back and forth, I guess, from the house. Oh my goodness gracious! All right. Well, that is all the time we have, Matt and Rose. That's it.
That's it.
Man, that's it.
Till we see each other again. Yes.
I will
Matt?
see you efflorescing porcelaneous people later.
Oh my goodness. Oh, we're just linking it all together now. Creepy. All right, y'all. And remember, give us a listen and also visit on Patreon. Keep us ceramic-y, people.
Keep us sturdy, y'all.
Well, folks, that's it for this week's episode of For Flux Sake. I'd like to thank the listeners who submitted questions this week. And if you want your question answered on the show, shoot us an email at ForFluxSakePodcast@gmail.com. So join us next time. And when in your studio, remember what Rose always says.
Always remember to test, test, test. This is a test of the emergency glaze system. Beep. Hey, For Flux Sake friends, wish you could hang with us a little more each month? Well, you can come join us at our For Flux Sake fan club on Patreon. You'll get discounts on our new merch, chances to chat with us during live hangouts, and extra episodes just for you. Find us at patreon.com/ForFluxSakePodcast. We'd love to see you there.